Shari Wade, and I'm a pediatric psychologist at Cincinnati Children's Hospital and the University of Cincinnati. For more than 25 years, I've been conducting research on predictors of recovery following traumatic brain injury in children. I've been particularly interested in how families are affected by their child's injury, and in turn, how families' response to the injury and family function influence the child's recovery. In that respect, I have developed a number of different family-centered interventions to facilitate the child's behavioral recovery as well as family adaptation. Brain injury does affect both parents and children. In terms of the effects on children, depending on the severity of the brain injury, the effects can be quite pervasive. You often see changes in behavior. Children become more dysregulated. They have more difficulty controlling their emotions. There's affective lability, so sometimes they're crying for no reason or they become very angry for no reason. There are obviously also cognitive changes, so there can be difficulty with learning new material, problems with memory, and particularly problems with executive function skills, so planning, problem solving, organization. For families, obviously seeing your child struggling with things is an incredible stressor. But families also often experience a lot of guilt and grief. They feel that they may have been to blame for the child's injury, or maybe they could have done something to prevent it. They're faced with a lot of burdens in terms of getting the child to medical appointments, figuring out what services and resources they need. There's often conflicts between parents about how best to handle things. Parents can cope differently. So fathers, at least in one of our studies, engaged in more denial, and mothers in more acceptance. And so when one parent is denying that there are problems and the other parent is saying, well, of course there are problems, then that creates a gulf between parents, and that's a problem as well. The other thing that's really important about parents and children is that there are reciprocal influences. So obviously, from what I've just said, how the child is functioning influence the parent's stress. And so if the child is doing poorly, parents are more stressed, they're more anxious, they're more depressed. But how the parent's functioning is also an important influence on the child. So if the parent is having difficulty controlling their own emotions, if their discipline or parenting is inconsistent, then that makes it harder for the child to recover fully. Well, including families is important for the reasons that I just said. I mean, first of all, it's important for families to really understand how the child's been affected. But families are perhaps the best therapists for children because they're with them every day. So once rehab is over, families are the everyday people who are going to either be reinforcing good behaviors, supporting participation in the community, or they're going to be the ones who are criticizing their child, yelling, not knowing how to respond to the child's behavioral challenges. So if you can equip parents with some coping skills and with some parenting skills for responding to the changes in their child's functioning, that can make a huge difference in the recovery process. One of the things that we know from the child development literature is that parent functioning, family functioning, and also the parent-child interaction is incredibly important for child development. So children of parents who have good parenting skills, who provide consistent discipline, but lots of warmth and support, have better social, emotional, and cognitive development. For children with traumatic brain injury, in some cases, we see those effects amplified. So in the context of a neurological insult, being a warm, responsive, and consistent parent becomes even more important. And then, of course, parents are stressed, so even if they were a warm, consistent parent prior to the injury, they may be struggling with that after the injury. So parents can be both incredible partners in rehab and important therapists, but they can also erode the child's progress, which is why it's important to involve them and make sure you equip them with good coping skills. You know, one of the challenges in pediatric traumatic brain injury research is that we don't have that many evidence-based programs. And I feel that because I've been fortunate enough to have lots of grant support over the years, that I've developed a better evidence base for the family problem-solving intervention than there are for most other interventions. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. It just means that we now do have an evidence base for that. So I think that that's a good evidence-based program for adolescents with traumatic brain injury. For younger children, I have conducted trials of parent skills training. Louise Brown in Australia has also done parent skills training, and Damith Woods in Australia has also done parent skills training. And those studies among our three groups suggest that for younger children, training parents how to do the things I just talked about, so being warm, responsive, and consistent in responding to problems, can be very effective. One of the things that happens following brain injury is that parents sometimes vacillate between being very strict. They get concerned and they say, okay, I've got to, set the rules, and they can be kind of punitive, but then they find it's not working and then they just give up. And then, so they kind of go back and forth between very strict and very lax. And that obviously creates problems. And so that's one of the reasons for younger children that the parenting skills and equipping parents with good skills for managing some of the behavioral challenges are very valuable. For older children and adolescents, by involving them in the problem-solving process, it gives them some choice and control. They have a say in kind of the strategies and approaches. And by the same token, the parent can support the plans. And so oftentimes, adolescents with brain injury may have problems with following through. So by involving the parent in the problem-solving process and the plan, the parent can support and scaffold the adolescents' work towards their goals.